Or am I the only one there? Hey, Stephany. I lost everybody. Hey, everybody. This is Anita, and we are live. Welcome to Brunch and Money Talks. What we are going to do today is talk about money, resources, and also how this economy is impacting us all. We are going to have two wonderful guest speakers be able to come in and help us to be able to resolve some of our concerns and issues. One, namely dealing with stress as it relates to this crisis, and also some money concerns, and also, um, let me get them in. So, hey, Ebony,
Hi.
how are you? We're live. So, while we are getting ourselves a bit organized, because this is very, very new to us, we are going to pretty much walk you through some of the um, ways to be able to. Hey, Stephany.
How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. We are live. We are going to attempt and do our best to be able to walk you through some of the concerns and issues that we all may have individually. But we want to make sure that you bring your tea, have your tea, and don't drink too much tea because, I was told that I don't need to be running back and forth to the bathroom. Um, have some water. If you got some pancakes available, do that. Bring that because we're gonna have a pretty much a lively discussion and an honest discussion about some of the issues and concerns that we are having. This brunch was supposed to be held in Brownsville, Brooklyn. It was in partnership with the Brownsville Community Culinary Center. But unfortunately, due to our current crisis situation, we are actually hosting this live. And we hope that we are able to provide you with a lot of different resources that are needed during this time. So I want to introduce my wonderful co-host, Ebony Smalls and Stephany Reyes. I'm going to allow them to each individually describe their businesses, and then Ebony is going to jump right into this mindfulness stuff that we need to deal with before we get into the meat. Because when we're talking about finances, it can be stressful. Actually, I'm going to take my sweater off because I'm getting kind of hot as we're talking about it. So we're going to take the Mr. Rogers sweater off. Then I lose my where did I go? Where did Ebony go?
I think we lost her.
No. Yes, you did go away. I can't see you. Oh. Go ahead, Stephanie. Introduce yourself.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephany Reyes-Seri. I am the founder and CEO of Financially Fit. Prior to starting my company, I worked for the city helping small business owners connect to funding. And I realized there was a gap between just basic education and financial literacy. And I wanted to start this business to create a curriculum and go into high schools and teach kids how to start a business and with an underlying focus on finances. So that was my reason for starting the business. But I also work with adults who currently have a business or are looking to start their own business. And I can help them with creating a business plan, creating projections. For me, if you're not making money, it's a hobby. So we need to understand before we start this business that it's going to be something that's lucrative. Maybe not in the first 3 months, but we want to see eventually down the line, will this business make me money ultimately? So that's where I help business owners. Oh, and the last piece is connecting them to lenders. There are so many online lenders now that are taking advantage of business owners with their predatory products. They won't tell you what the interest rate actually is. They'll tell you it's a flat fee. And then if you actually do the calculation, you realize that this interest rate is ridiculous. So my job for me is to make sure that I help connect small business owners to healthy products that will allow them to grow their business to the next level.
So if I may, why did you initially get started your business? Like what were some of the long-term things that you were thinking about in terms of that made you like want to go out and just say, hey, you know what, I want to start my own business, like the real deep stuff.
Yeah. So if you would have asked me 3 years ago, because a lot of people have always brought it up to me, Stephany, start your own business, start your own business. Like you really know how to speak to people to the point where they actually understand finances in a very basic level, but are able to understand it. I said no. I was like, no, I'm risk averse. I like my steady paycheck. I don't want to take this risk and start my own business. But recently, I started teaching more classes, and I noticed that my community is the one that's struggling the most. It's my community that doesn't understand the importance of having a good credit score, the importance of having healthy financials when it comes to connecting to capital. And so they'll come to me when I used to work in my previous role, and I was unable to help them, and that hurt me the most because it was easier to get, the wealthier white clients to connect them to capital. They didn't even need it, but they wanted to use someone else's money as opposed to theirs. So I was no longer fulfilled in my role. So that's why I wanted to start my own business, to make sure that I had an impact in my community so we create our own wealth and only depend on ourselves.
Right. And that's important. You mentioned a couple of things about creating wealth within our own communities, because a lot of times it's not like we don't have it. It's just that we are, at a point where we are, I guess, like missing the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
We're not prepared for the opportunities. So right now we're in the midst of an unprecedented time. When I think about, where we are, we're all confined to our homes. A lot of people they have lost life, they have lost businesses, and people are really, really stressed out. So joining us now is Ebony. Hey, Ebony.
I'm here.
So I want you to take a moment, to introduce yourself, your business, and, just get us, kind of prepped up to be able to work and to manage some of this stuff that's happening right now.
You got it. You got it. So, hi, everyone. My name is Ebony, and I'm founder of Mindful Moves Coaching and Counseling, LLC. And the reason why I started this business is because, one, I'm a social worker by trade. So, I'm currently a practicing social worker, running a program for youth in foster care that are in college. And I've also volunteered for a number of young professionals groups. And it was actually in my work with the young professionals that I realized there was a need for the next level of conversation around mental health, wellness, and self-care. These are all the people that that are out here, working hard. A lot of them are actually currently essential employees. They're working for, large institutions. They're the people that we tell our children's to look to, honestly, right? We're saying, work hard, create a business, read, right? And these people are doing all that, but they are stressed the fuck out. Right? And then you add the mix of a spouse, you add the mix of a child, and now they're balancing everything and trying to be the perfect, perfect parent, perfect employee, perfect business owner, child to their parent. And I noticed that there was a gap in the mental health piece. It sounded good to say, like, oh, yeah. Like, I've saw a therapist once. So, I am a part of a group of people who will talk about that, but are you consistent, right, with seeing your therapist? Are you consistent with putting yourself first? And beyond getting manicures and pedicures, which, in all honesty, none of us can get right now unless you're good at doing it yourself, right? So my nails look like crap. It's one of the only things that I pay for someone else to do regularly. And so they look like crap right now. But when you think about it, those were the things that we were taught would bring peace. Unfortunately, those are the things that we were told would make you feel better when you have a rough day. And, now we're talking about what I've been talking about all along is bringing it from within. Like, what are you doing to ensure that you feel safe? What are you doing to ensure that your needs are being met, by you and sometimes the people around you? But a lot of times you have to practice, for yourself. So, you know, unfortunately, fortunately, I feel like all of the things that I've been working on all this time is sort of what brought me here today. Because for these last few weeks, I've in fact had to use every single skill that I have in order to stay okay during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do find, gratitude and am grateful that these are things, that I've been working on, but also things that I've been sharing. When I have my friends or my family text me and say, girl, you got any mindful moves today? That means that they were, paying attention, and it means that there's a need. And, for me, just one more thing, because I know I'm talking a lot.
But
I
it's
was,
stuff
I've
though.
been, huh?
This is great stuff. So you have
Thank you.
to do it. We need this stuff right now.
Yeah. So I've been really quiet because I, like most people, have been overwhelmed. So although people were looking, to me as like, you're a mental health professional, you must got some stuff, you ready to talk to us, you done created content. And I remember being like, y'all, like, just like you, like, I'm actually trying to gather my thoughts, stay afloat. I am still working from home as an essential employee, but more hours even than I was working before. So I'm pulling 12 and 13-hour days from my house. And so it's really taken all of these weeks before I could sort of gather my thoughts to be able to create and provide content, because I was working on me. I was like, girl, how can you keep this together? And so, although we're here today, talking to everyone, it took work to be able to get here in the midst of the pandemic. I wasn't being business minded like my great, counterparts, and other people are like, grow your business now, you free. And I'm like, girl, like, free, like, what? They like, grind, this is your time. I'm like, I'm not right now. Right. So, I didn't have that part in me at that time because I had so much that I was trying to sort of think about and work out. And so I say all that to say, like, don't be hard on yourself during this conversation or during any time that we're dealing with this. Like, if you do not have you don't have their energy within you to grow your business, start a new business right now, it's okay. It's okay, because when this is all over, you might gain a different sort of clarity. You might pivot where your business was going. You might want to add something else to it because you've learned something during this time. So, take your time. Everybody just, take your time. And so, in saying that, I did want to do an exercise because I
I
love me
love
some
the
exercises.
exercises. Yes. Like where we going
And
to exercise?
well, listen, that moving the body part, like, somebody got to talk to me about it because I've been so achy and I didn't know why. It's because I have been working such long hours. I'm only going from the bed to the couch, um, and to the chair. And I don't live in a very big place, but I was shocked at the achiness that I was feeling when it was time to go to bed. And I was thinking, why do I feel this way? Why am I so uncomfortable? I thought I would enjoy sort of getting this rest time where I can do my work laying down. And I realized that, in fact, it's actually causing sort of like more pain and more sort of unhealthy practices than I had thought. And so, that's definitely something that I plan on working on coming into this next week, is making sure that I'm being very intentional about, my body movements. And yeah, because I also haven't been outside in like a week either at all. And that was because I did go outside last week to work with some students because again, I'm still working, and a student was definitely freaking out just about everything that's going on. And so I, hopped over to Queens. I live in Brooklyn, and the place was crowded. So in my head, I was already like, shit, the lobby's crowded. Everyone's here. I'm talking to students. I'm talking to people. Everyone isn't practicing social distancing. And then the next day, like, I start like struggling with my asthma. So now I'm like, having trouble breathing, like with shortness of breath and chest tightness. So I'm like, oh shit, that's it, right? Like COVID got me. Let me just, stay home.
I laugh.
It's, I'm actually just, prepping myself like all the time for that. And so I'm like that, that must be what's happening. Called my doctor. Another thing that I'm thankful for is honestly for already having health insurance. I actually pay extra for boutique medical care because I already have asthma, allergies, and a bunch of things, and I want someone to be able to properly, monitor me. But again, I realize that that's a privilege, and I'm thankful every time I can pay a copay. The point that I get to text my doctor and then telehealth, like I know that that's a privilege, and it's been helpful to me during this time where I can't leave, And so, of course, immediately my doctor asked me, "We'll start staying home." So then I didn't see the sunshine for for quite some days. And so, this week it will be different. And the exercise that I want to show you guys is really just some breathing and touching of your own body to ground yourself. The benefits of sort of moving your neck and moving your arms are endless. Like you don't think about it until you don't, move it enough. And I really got this exercise from one of my trauma-informed care books because right now we're going through a traumatic time and a traumatic experience. So I'll be pulling on expertise from trauma-informed care and even healing centered care during this time. So you won't be doing jumping jacks. You get to stay in your chair. Just because I know it will look funny with me, hopping up and down online. You're not ready for that. There's a lot of stuff going on here. You want to keep that under control. And I haven't been wearing, my good bra in a few days. So, let me stay chill for y'all. All right. So make sure that you're in a comfortable seated position. Make sure your booty is feeling okay. We're going to do a deep inhale and just a little for practice. When you're inhaling, you're actually pushing your stomach out. So it's okay. So it's the opposite of sometimes what people are doing, but that's the way we should properly be breathing. Okay. So you're going to inhale, you're going to push your stomach out. And when you exhale, you're going to put your hand on your shoulder. You're going to cross over like this. All right. You're going to relax your shoulder while keeping your spine elongated. You're going to use your hand to just grasp your shoulder. So keep breathing, but hold your shoulder tight with firm pressure on the muscle groups in and around the area. So sort of like you're giving yourself a massage. Okay? And keep taking your breaths and just turn your head from left to right. So give it a few more times. Relax your arm. Let's use the next arm. Cross over again. Deep breath in and out. Hold tight. Let's do another one. And now let's turn our heads from side to side. All right. Now let's put our arms down. We'll just do a little bit more. Have your hands sort of hang at your sides, or you can grip it to the side of your chair, whatever feels comfortable. Continue breathing normally. And we're still going to do our head turns from left to right, just without the shoulder movements. All right? All right, let's go.
So for those who are just joining, we are doing a mindfulness exercise before we get into the meat of the discussion as it relates to money, our current situation. So we are going to talk about, um, what's happening in this crisis right now. But what we're doing is taking a moment to appreciate and breathe before we get into such a heavy topic. So that's what we're doing now.
Keep breathing normally. It's okay that you hear sounds in the background. Most of us do not live in a quiet place. Embrace it. Keep breathing. Think about why you joined us today. Set your intention for yourself. Some of you are here to learn, right? Some of you are here as a support. Whatever you're here for, we hope that you get it today. My intention for today is to be thoughtful, to share exercises with you, and for me to learn a little bit more about how I can be financially safe while we're in this crisis. All right. As you feel comfortable, you can bring yourself back to the center. So I hope you all felt okay, excuse me, in doing that. As I was sort of looking through my books today, I sort of anytime I have an event to do like this, or anytime I'm talking to people, I sort of let the tool find me, and I let, the page, if it's in a book, you sort of dictate what today is going to look like. I really do just sort of open, and wherever it opens is where I say, like, this is what I'm going to speak on, this is what I'm going to teach on. And so, we did the breathing exercise, but the next thing that came was gratitude and gratitude letter. And so, while you're having this talk about finances, while you're thinking about how you're going to keep, your family afloat during this time, or what you're going to do when this is all over, take time to think about what's good in your world, in your universe. Think about that funny thing that someone said. Find gratitude in all that we're able to accomplish and do on today and in the next few weeks. And the book that I got it from speaks about actually writing a letter of gratitude. So instead of just like, I have gratitude jars, and I put, the topic inside of the jar, and I share what I'm thankful for. This is asking you to write a letter of gratitude to someone that, that has done something nice for you. And when's the last time we all, wrote letters? I buy cards that I forget to send out quite regularly, right? And so, that's the page. And I think that it jumped on that page for a reason. And so, I hope that this is something that people can see themselves doing during this time. Just sending a thank you to someone, sharing what they have done that has gotten you through, in the past. And it says, to be clear, actually, in the book, it says, be specific about the things that this person has done for you. Because think about how good that feels. Better than saying, thank you for being a great friend, girl. But think about how you can say, that time that you called me when I was down and you didn't know. That time that you helped me at my child's birthday party. I expect a lot of those, y'all. That, that, thank you, for being there when I had a family member pass, right? Like, being able to be specific and kind to those you care about is the practice that I'm going to drop in here today. As you're thinking about how to get things in order, think about people that have already helped you. And if you, do have time to be able to write that letter, please do. It doesn't have to go out next week, Monday. It really is about a timeline that works for you. But think about sitting down and being able to write that down. Mindfulness is about kindness. It's about positive practices. It's about the connection to yourself and what makes you feel good, as well as what makes others feel good. So, yeah. So now we'll jump into the tough talk, and y'all will see me asking lots of questions myself because I'm totally confused about the stimulus check. I'm confused about, I'm confused about, how to, I have to think, not even confused about, but think about like how to help and support even like, loved ones during this time. Because again, I am still getting paid full time to work. Again, sharing gratitude. But, how do I help others around me who I know are in need and whose situations, may have changed? Is it smart for me to still be paying into something over here when right now, someone else might need help? So, you'll hear me asking questions, and I hope that you all do so as well.
And
All right.
so, hey, hey everybody, I'm Anita, and welcome. I am super grateful for the opportunity to be able to, share with you some of the things that I learned, my knowledge, and I've invited a few girlfriends to the table to our brunch. So I hope that you brought your tea, pancakes, your avocado spread, whatever it is that you have during this brunch time. And we're gonna have a good time. It is an honest and scary conversation. So here's some facts. But first, let me tell you about my business. Because
Yes.
Hey, what's your business?
how dare I be on a platform and not talk about my business? Because this is what we're trying to do. One of my goals as the founder and owner of 11375, which is a minority women business enterprise that I started 5 years ago. What I do is I support small businesses to help their mission grow. I connect and create a consortium of entrepreneurs where we're able to just try to grow together. I'm also licensed in the state of New York as a notary. I'm also licensed in the state of New York to sell life insurance. I'm also a person who teaches workplace development. I write grants. I have over 15 years of experience in financial services. And now I own 11375. Where you see me now is not where I started. I do not like social media that well because it can be a bit intimidating. However, one of the things that I have as a part of my business plan is to be sure that 11375 is visible. And I can't be visible if I'm not participating in new ways for me to be able to expand and grow my business. I'm also a business coach as well, and help, small businesses just like myself to try to make the best as to where they are. Because what I've learned through this process so far is that if my confidence and my swag isn't up, then nobody ain't gonna buy my products. Nobody ain't gonna believe in me. So it's important that we do a lot of the self and internal work first and feel comfortable within ourselves first. And sometimes for me, it means that even though I'm scared, nervous, like I was and still am right now, that I'm still, expressing and having the courage to be able to do this. Because the truth is, I have a 5-year-old chairwoman that I report to, and I want to be sure that part of my responsibility is to make sure that I provide her with future options. So one of the things that I'm practicing right now is, Ebony, hit it on the head. When this crisis first hit, for the month of March, that was supposed to be a income generating month for me, right?
Right? Me too.
Right. And as we're all shaking our heads, it looked like it was for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so, with Women's History Month, a lot of us was connecting, you know what, women empowerment, we could do this, we could do that, we could put our business brand out there, we could put ourselves out there, and then slowly but surely, as the information started to become trickled down, events started to become canceled. Because I actually thought, honestly, that this was something that would have been resolved a little bit quicker,
Yep.
and that it's not as widespread as it is now. But the other thing that I am going to share is that, and the reason why I have just a little bit more insight is because I'm married to a first responder. He is a
Yep.
paramedic with the fire department. And I also live in a community where I have also first responders, nurses, police officers, firemen. So as we have a group chat and as people started sharing information, I'm like, damn, like this is real, right? I'm also gonna share that it hit home a little bit differently because we are my husband went to work. This was before schools closed, and my husband went to work, and he was caring for his patients as normal, and he came home, was on his 2-day swing, and then what happened was uh, he went back to work, on his regular schedule. And so what he was told was, to go in, he was called back to his station and was given a mask. Now, why he was given a mask during that first week was because the patient that he tended to 2 days prior was definitely tested positive for the virus. Now, why I became frustrated, one is because, it gives you an insight, as to how people are dealing with it on the front lines, right? So they're not really as protected as we think that they are, even though they are managing, the brunt of this work right now. Um, where I became frustrated is that he had already came home. There was no test. There was exposure for myself and my daughter, and
Yep.
then the exposure expanded for me, which is to her school because she went back to school in between those two swings. Now that we all tested negative, right? Thankfully. However, right, in that time it was unknown. So we had to wait, at the time it was 3 days. Now you're talking about now almost three, we're in, I think, week 3. And unfortunately the days are kind of like, combining. So I think we're in week 3. So I'm saying that to say that, there's a lot that we're experiencing now. But connecting to what Ebony talked about in terms of, I'm like, I don't really want to do anything online, right? I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And so now we're here and it's kind of dope. So I think we're going to do it again after we figure out
Yes.
our audience like this. So we're going to get into the question of the day, right? So we're going to talk about this stimulus, right? And how it impacts where we are currently. So my facts are coming directly from the policy makers that causes us stress, which is the irs.gov. So if anyone is wondering where I get my sources, that's where I get my source. I source directly from the source, and I'm not trying to go outside of those boundaries. So
Okay.
I took an opportunity to review what the stimulus package means, as it relates to us. Yes, if you did file your taxes, great. If you have direct deposit connected to it, great. It may apply to you, right? However, for those individuals, because we all have friends and family that, may not have complied appropriately with filing their taxes and may receive, a number of subsidies through the government. You do not apply. You do not qualify for those stimulus or economic support at the moment. You don't. And again, fact checking the irs.gov. This is not an Anita thing. This is not an 11375 thing. This is not a Stephany thing. This is not an Ebony thing. This
Because
is
Ebony want her check. She might not get it either.
so that's one of the things I want to clear up because there is a lot of, when you think about the government, and this whole stimulus and what's coming down, the only thing I think of personally on the back end is that we're borrowing from pretty much a system that they're like making money right now, right? Creating money. That's what I'm saying. It's creating money out of nothing because the government can create money and pumping into the system to be able to provide stimulus that will benefit us all at some point. So that's the first thing I want to get off our chest, because I know that, there's a lot of miscommunication. And trust me, there's a lot that's changing. Um, so definitely, I would definitely say stay abreast if you can interpret it at the irs.gov. It's a lot. You're talking about, different, what do they call them? Statues or line items, whatever they call it. It's a lot of information. You're talking about over 70,000 plus in terms of like information. Um, so it's definitely important to be able to interpret those things. You don't have to know everything, but definitely be able to at least read. So one of the fundamental things I often like to teach my clients, right, is when you're going through a crisis, right? Because a lot of times we go through stuff, right? But the most important thing for us to do is to not make crazy decisions while we're in the midst of the crisis, i.e., stay if you have the privilege of having a 401k, if you have the privilege of having, a variety of different resources, um, just lay low, right? And the reason why I'm saying lay low, because if you're tapping into your 401k, you are not really going to benefit in the long term, because that's, set up so that you can take advantage of one, what your employer is offering to you, right? Especially if they match. If they match, that's free money. So you need to make sure that you stay at a balanced level. And I know it's hard, right? And I'm saying that because it's hard. I'm in a household. I have still the benefit of having income because my husband does work, and I also bring an income as an entrepreneur. I'm not balling out yet, right? But what I am is doing is practicing some simple things that have helped me personally, to be able to sustain myself, i.e., I cut down a lot of my expenses, right? So while it is important to still maintain, small businesses, restaurants, and support, because I'm a balance of both, right? You don't want to be in a position where you're not supporting or creating an economy outside of the household, even though we can't, go out. We're supposed to be, hunker down in our homes. You still want to be able to support small businesses, restaurants, et cetera, because the economy is, at some point, it is going to turn around. We just don't know when. So we have to kind of be prepared, both emotionally and in this time right now, start to, do a realistic assessment as to where you are. So if you still online shopping, like, I am, and online shopping to me, because I think, most of my family's, everybody in my family knows, right? I love a good Converse. I love a nice shoe. But I also appreciate, spending money on a budget, right? Because, those are the things that feed me. So, a couple of months ago, we did a program, pretty much focusing on the financial mentality. And one of the things that, when you're talking about your financial mentality, you have to be able to make a personal assessment as to what your trigger points financially, right? So, as I mentioned, I like to shop. Like that's real, right? For me, I like to shop, and thank you for the face, Ebony.
I never met a shopper like Anita. I'll tell you that.
But
Much better now, at the birth of the little one, things change. But woo, this shopper.
but the truth is, right? So I created a budget, right? And
Hmm.
my budget line is called bullshit spending, right? That's what I call, or BS spending, right? And so what I use that to fund the things that make me happy, right? So
Yeah.
again, now I like Converse and, some a funky shirt and, some, glasses and, those things. But I'm not spending $500-600 on a pair of shoes like I was. I'm not spending, couple of $100s or thousands of dollars on bags. One, because it's just not smart. My my personal financial goals have shifted. And so now I want to buy investment properties. I want to have, more things to pass down as a legacy instead of passing down shoes that she can't fit. So it's really important for you, especially in this time, to take a clear assessment as to where you are financially. You got to open up them statements. You got to deal with your creditors. You got to deal with all those things, the things that
Lord.
we don't like to deal with. And I'm saying that because if you're in debt right now, you can get out of it. I am a testimony witness to it. You can get out of it. But right now, since things are so uncertain, right, you don't want to focus in on the uncertainty. You want to focus and feel confident enough to be able to do something about where you are. So my first recommendation, this is my very first recommendation, is if you have any type of debt. Now, you could be debt free, which is great, right? Just stay calm. Things will clear up. But if you have debt, rip them papers open, check your online statements, look through your bank statements if you have things that are automatically withdrawn from your account to be able to assess. Do I really need 2 Netflix accounts? Do I really need 2 Hulu accounts? A lot of your telephone companies, at least from what I've seen, they're offering Hulu as a free service.
Yep.
Take advantage of it, right? You don't have to pay the fee. And I'm not saying that you need to be cheap, right? Right? It's not about being cheap. It's about changing your mindset about creating the life and the legacy that you want for your future. And the one thing for me is I don't want a creditor calling me at my job. Like that happened to me. Like I was at a job and I knew that I owed credit cards, because again, I'm a shopaholic. That's what I like to do, right? That's real, right? But I'm at this job and I am at my desk and I get a call transferred to me. And I never forget this. It may sound a little weird, but I'm starting off fresh, new career. It's not in financial services, so I'm like feeling real confident at the time. This was about like 7 years ago. So I get the call transferred to my desk, and the person sounds just like this. Hello, may I speak to Anita Pierce? I'm like, oh, this is Anita Pierce, because it's on a company now. So, you got to be responsive and respective to who's on the company line, right? This is so-and-so from credit card something. And I was like, what the fuck they found me? Now, here's the joke about that. The reason why I'm saying that is because for that particular card that I had, it was when I was in college, right? So my ignorance, right, was like, how did they find me after all those years? After all those years, like I wasn't putting on, opening up new applications, putting my current job. I wasn't doing that. I was not, walking around promoting, hey, this is where my new job is. Come find me, because I was ducking everybody at the time that I had all that debt. And y'all know what it's like. You don't want to feel that weight. And so when I got that call, I felt like everybody in my office knew. I felt like we was on a recorded line. And I was like, listen, for me, I'm not talking about what everybody else. That was embarrassing for me. That was enough to make me go, listen, let me clear up all this stuff. And it took me probably about 2 years to clip about $22,000 to $25,000 in credit card debt. Now I want to hear how crazy that sounds. You want to know why it's crazy?
Crazy. Because
Back then I was single. I was extra sexy. I mean, I still got a little, got the mommy sexy now, but back then I was single. I could have put that $25,000 towards buying an investment property, right? I could have used that shoe money that I was walking around, shoes that I don't even wear anymore, except on special occasions, with the sweetheart, and I don't. Those things they're just material. So I can't pass down shoes to my child. So that was one of the things that I personally did for myself. Now let's move fast forward to where we are now, right? So I do none of that right now because again, my mindset has shifted, right? I don't have credit cards, my personal preference, because I don't like that weight. I don't like the idea of having someone pick up the phone and say that I owe you something. I owe you something. That's just me. May not work for anyone else, right? So open up your bank statements. Open up your credit card statements if you have them. And also, if you owe somebody right now, right, be kind and pay it back to them. Like you don't want to damage a relationship over like, a couple of $100. Just
Yeah.
them, please. Like just for the sake of maintaining a relationship. So now, as we also open up our credit card statements, I also want people to take a look at your actual credit reports, right?
Yes.
Now, all of your credit reports are accessible online. Very true. You can look at it now, but I also recommend when this time frame shifts where we can actually, have things mailed to us for real, that we're actually not really scared to, get mail and things right now. Actually order your actual credit report from the actual creditors, the actual for why did I just the
Reporting agencies, the
yes,
credit
thank
reporting
you. The
agencies.
credit reporting agencies themselves. And here's why. Having a piece of paper, it gives you an opportunity to really work through your credit, right? And it could be things on there that were from years ago, right? And it's important that you have a clear assessment as to where you are so that when things start to turn around, you could take advantage of everything, investments, going into business, taking out business loans, if you choose to, being able to fund things differently, being in a place where, you can give back and not be afraid to give your tithes and offerings if you are affiliated with a church. Because again, churches are businesses too, and they need that support to keep the lights on, to keep technology going. So we often forget that, even though it's a part, if you are a believer, it's a part of what our responsibility, I believe, is as being, giving our tithes and offerings. Those are things we can do once we get the weight of the debt off our chest, right? So that's the second thing. The other thing is, start to write down all of your expenses after you open up the bank account, after you open up them statements, after you pull the credit report, definitely look at all of your expenses and write them down. Write them down, right? From smallest to largest, right? That's if you have credit cards. Because again, if you don't have credit cards, then, you may just be wanting to take advantage of some of the investment opportunities out there. But this is specifically important to be able to write it down. Just like a lot of us had, we came into 2020 vision boards. We had like vision boards crazy. Use the same analysis as we are in attacking your finances as well. Write it down. If you have to put it on a vision board, do so, right? Because it helps to keep you accountable, just like you want to be accountable and accomplishing and knocking out all of your goals, whether you want to get snatched for the summer, whether you want to buy investment properties, whatever it is that you want to do, attack your finances the same way. But you can't pretend that it doesn't exist, because it does. Right?
Anita, can I chime in real quick?
Yes.
When you write down all of your credit cards, I also want you to write down the interest rate. Look at how much you're paying in interest for that credit card. You might want to refinance all of that into a loan, into a smaller interest rate payment. So you're paying less monthly, but at least you're able to pay it down quicker. Because some of us are paying 20 to like 30% interest on a credit card, and you can probably consolidate that into a loan and pay maybe 8 to 10. So it'll save you a significant amount of money.
So I'm going to take a tea break. Can we have you talk about, how this is impacting our businesses in terms of them being able to use some of your services or taking advantage of some of the other services that are out there while I take a tea break?
Yeah. Ooh, where to start? So So March was supposed to be a good month for me. But a lot of my business owners decided to put their plans on hold because the money that they were going to invest in either starting a business or growing to the next level, it just didn't make sense because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So we don't know if they're going to be able to make the monthly payments for the loans. One thing, just to put reality out there, when we go back to the real world, probably half the restaurants we used to go to are going to be shut down. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses don't qualify for the relief loans or grants that are out there, be it that they haven't been operating enough time, or that they don't have their financials in order. And that is the biggest thing. Not only, honestly, I look at my personal finances as if I'm operating a business. So I feel like that should be your mindset as well. Your personal finances is your business, and you need to have all the ducks in a row, especially if you're looking to grow or invest in something in the future. So with my business owners, a lot of them are informal or they're cash-based, so they don't put the money in the bank. And since they're not depositing the funds in the bank, on paper, it doesn't even look like they were operating well enough to be able to afford the debt that they're looking to take on. So that's one thing. They can't get a loan because on paper it doesn't show that the business is doing well, or they're not collecting the data accurately enough. So they might have a QuickBooks, but they don't know how to use the software and like reconcile information. I don't want to get too technical. They might not know how to use QuickBooks correctly. So when they do go to run reports that lenders need in order to assess if they can take on this debt, again, they're not able to qualify. So it's really hard right now. And I had to make sure I take a break every day because I have business owners that come to me and say, hey, Stephany, how can you help me? Any help would be much appreciated. And then I look at their financials. I'm like, I'm sorry, like you can't qualify for anything. You weren't paying your employees on payroll. You were just paying them cash. I can't track that. And so you can't qualify for this grant for the city for payroll. And so unfortunately, your business can't get the grant, and then you can't keep paying your employees, and it just trickles. It affects everyone on the line. So it's been a really hard time saying no to clients and trying to help them and being unable to. It hurts a lot.
So Stephany, how are you getting your clients that you work with now prepared to ride and to be able to take advantage and come out of this situation? Because again, I think we all believe on this line that it's gonna end at some point. We just don't know when. But it's just, how are you coaching them to say that at this point you can start now as a business owner to be able to take advantage of some of those opportunities that are going to come forward?
Okay, so the first exercise that I ask my clients to do is, where can we cut our costs? Not necessarily cutting your employees, but can we reach out to a vendor and say, hey, I can't pay you right now. Can we extend the payment for like 3 months? Mm-hmm. And the more that you can reduce your cost, the better. So now that's the first exercise. Reach out to any of your vendors, see where you can cut costs. The second exercise I ask my clients to do is to create projections. So we want to see for the rest of 2020, if we cut these costs and based on the reduced income that we have now, how long can the business last without the injection of capital?
Okay, so I'm going to just say for projections, because, sometimes our financial lingo may not get, interpreted correctly. So what do you mean by financial projections? Elaborate on
that. So with this exercise, I love projections just in general, taking a step back. As a new business owner, I would always recommend you create financial projections to give yourself a good idea of how well the business is going to do. So basically, it's an estimate, a logical estimate. Let's say I expect to have 10 clients every month, and on average, you're going to spend $100. That's the estimate that I'm making, and that's the revenue that I'm expecting every month. We also want to think about seasonality with our business. I know that the business that I operate in the summer, it's a low season for me because people are on vacation. So as we do these projections or as we make these estimates every month going forward, we want to think about all of those factors. There are months where I make less income. There are months where I make more. So we figure out the top line. Those are estimates, projections that we're making on the top line. Then we want to think about all of our costs.
Right.
Those are the areas where we're thinking, where can we reduce? And we put all those line items down. So that's rent. We still have to pay that, unfortunately. Utilities, we might be able to push that back. We'll reach out to them, see if we can push that payment back. Marketing, we can probably cut that cost because we are not getting any clients right now. Or if we are now switching to a virtual platform, maybe we do want to put more money into that so we can get more income and be able to cover our costs. Other costs we can reduce, maybe we cut our labor in half. All the other costs we'll list there and see where we can reduce it. And then at the bottom line, we'll do the income minus all of our expenses. And then the bottom line is our net. How much did the business actually make left over? We want to focus on that line. We want to see how much do we have on the bottom. So it might be that the first 3 months after cutting all of these costs as much as possible, we can survive for 3 months. If we can get funding, I want my clients to look not just for these first 3 months, but until the end of the year, because we have to keep in mind, if we do start operating again in the summer, our clients might not be able to afford our services. They may have lost a job and can't come back to us right away. Yeah. So we need to think just beyond just when this will end, but to the end of the year. How I need to get enough money and funding to last me for the end of this year. So we'll look at these projections and figure out how long can my business last without funding, or what I call a capital injection, loans, financing that we get into the business, and then think how much am I going to need for the remainder of the year. So with those estimates that we do, we'll see at the bottom, okay, I was good for the first 3 months. Month 4, I had a loss of 10. I expect a loss of 10,000, and then it keeps reducing. And then the total from month 4 to the end of the year is, let's say, 50,000. So I know I need to get at least 50,000 in capital injection to last me for at least the end of the year. I said a lot. I know.
I know. But I do have, I know, right? I do have a question. Do you think it's smart for people to start businesses right now?
If you have a product or a service that's needed right now and it's a low overhead, I would say go for it. I would definitely say go for it. I have a few people who were seamstress and they did costume design, and they've noticed that there's a need for masks. Right. So they've been making the masks and selling it on Etsy. So that's been a business that's thriving right now. Yeah. A lot of fitness studios have converted to virtual classes, which makes sense. People can't get out the house, but we don't want to get that for the summer. So they've been able to take advantage of that market. So if your business can go virtual, that's even better because it's low overhead, and you would be able to make some money and have some money coming in as opposed to nothing.
So how many of
you... And I just want to add for my, mental health professional friends out there, right? Like
a lot of them, hey, everybody.
Oddly enough, it's an opportunity, right now as well. Like people are looking to have health sessions. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Because my phone got a little weird. But people are looking to have telehealth, sessions. People are looking for a coach right now just to get them through. And so, this can be an opportunity. Like I said, for me, I was quiet, but I was working on things because March was also supposed to be my month. I had an event every weekend, and one of them was going to be my first time actually selling products. And then when that went down, I just was like, oh, maybe this isn't, the time. But now it allows me a chance to think about how I could still get that going, right? Like I still have the products and I still have the stuff to make it in my house right now, right? And, how I can use this time as, practice at my own pace to make sure that it's, that it's good enough and that it is ready to be able to be, shown to other people, presented and sold, So thank you for sharing, Stephany, that yes, this could be a good time to, start a business, or you still can maintain your business, depending on what it is. This is the time of pivot, right? Like it might have been something, like we were saying, that's usually done in person, right? But now we've found out how to do it on the internet. And honestly, we've been doing most things on the internet, minus me and Anita, who are now coming to the internet for real. Like YouTube been there, and people been learning how to do their hair, how to get their life right, from YouTube, making food, right? And so like now for the people who actually have the businesses, it's like, how do how do you use that? How do you use YouTube? How do you use live? All these live platforms are popping. Like I don't gotta watch Netflix these past few weeks because if I put on Instagram, someone is live. Whether it's a party, whether it's how to stay calm. I just watched Iyanla the other day on live, right? Like really, almost anything that you need right now, people are, and you're giving it away for free. A lot of content for free, right? And so if if you have a product, good news is like people aren't really inundated right now, with products. They'll be open to seeing, what you have to offer because they are being offered, so much right now. So it definitely makes sense if you can, like I said earlier, if you have the capacity, if you're up to it, to jump into the game. If right now is not your time, because again, you're trying to manage a life, a household, if you're, having financial struggles right now, no one is saying ignore that, jump, head first and get in there. But we're saying like, if you can, think about it. This could be your moment.
To that point, if you do want to start a business, but you are struggling financially, I would highly recommend you write a business plan first before you jump into it. Maybe not a full detailed one, but understanding who's my market, who's actually going to buy this. Are these essential workers? Are these people who still have an income, who can afford looking to sell, one, and two, given that I have a limited income, can I afford to invest my own money into making this product? I don't want people to start a business just because they're desperate to get money in without thinking it through. And even before this, people were doing that. They would just start a business because they didn't want to work for someone without actually having a plan in place. So I want you to think about who's actually going to buy this product or service and how much is it going to cost me in order to create it. And then if it all makes sense financially, then definitely go for it.
So does everyone see the connection so far with personal finances, wanting to create a business, that we all talking about the fundamentals? You got to have a plan, right? Yeah. You got to have a plan. We are encouraging you to write things down. And as Stephany was mentioning about, when you're doing financial projections and writing things down and looking at specific line items, it's the same thing applying to your personal finances. Mm-hmm. It's very similar. The only difference is that you are maintaining yourself and your family as a business enterprise versus having something external outside of you all. So it's important. We want you to write things down. We want you to feel hopeful. We want you to understand that out of this craziness, that there is something that's going to come out positively during this process. So I'm going to look into the chat to see, does anyone have any questions that I can direct to our, respective speakers? Because we still have some, a few more moments that we are going to be on. But I want to make sure that I take a moment to be able to acknowledge all who have shown up today. And we greatly appreciate your support because I know it's kind of early, but y'all know y'all do them bottomless brunches and y'all be the first ones there. So cheers.
My brunch starts at 1.
If you want the good stuff, you going in there. Well, that's how I used to do it.
I know.
I like to make one point just in case it doesn't come in later. For any existing business owner that's out there looking for funding, please be very careful where you are getting these funds. There's so many, even prior to everything that's happened now, there are a lot of online lenders, and most of them, a great number of them, are predatory. So before you agree to anything, make sure you read all of the terms. What are the payments? Are they monthly? Are they daily? Are they weekly? Are they a percentage of your sales? Because that can affect how much cash flow or how much cash you have on hand in order to operate your business. One thing, rule of thumb, always avoid any lender that's making you have daily payments or weekly payments. You want to get a lender that has a monthly payment. The lender also needs to clearly define what is the interest rate that you are paying. A lot of lenders will just tell you, oh, you can get a $10,000 loan and you don't have to pay interest. You just pay $5,000, so you pay me back $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. You need to get a clear interest rate from these lenders. Make sure you read all of the terms. How quickly do you have to pay this back? Are you taking out $50,000 and have to pay it back in 6 months? Is that something that's realistic for you? So please be very careful if you are looking for a business loan. Please pay attention to the number of years to pay back or months to pay back. How do you pay back? Is it monthly or daily? And then the interest rate. Those are things that you need to pay attention to.
So thank you very, very, very much. So I'm going to just throw out some more things before we get to the questions. So your federal taxes, if you have not filed already for the state, is due. Your federal taxes, I want to be real clear, July 15th, 2020. Please note that this applies to your federal taxes. Please note that state taxes, the deadline may not have been extended. So please check the irs.gov to make sure, or your state Department of Finance and Tax, Department of Finance within the state, to make sure that their deadlines have been adjusted, because they may not have adjusted it to the federal. So your federal taxes, even though when we do our taxes, we do federal and state together, some people may think that because we have this delay to July 15th, that it applies to everything. So please check your state tax website to make sure that the taxes are due at the same time. They also want to make sure that, again, if you have any outstanding financial creditors that you owe, your landlord, have a conversation. If you have any credit cards, credit debt that you have to mortgage, have a conversation. I had this conversation internally within my home. Please pay the mortgage on time. If we have not had that conversation with our lender directly, which we did, but we are opting, because we still have steady income in the household, to pay it. Who wants to pay, whatever
3
amount,
months. Yeah.
3 or 4 months, as the weather gets warm, we're going to eventually get out. We're going to want to go on vacation. We ain't going to want to pay no mortgage. We see that money sitting in our account. We like, yeah, we going to Hawaii. We going to Cancun. We going to do whatever it is that we want to do. If you have the ability to still maintain your bills, please pay them on time. Please have a conversation with your creditors, because it's important. You don't want to get tempted, especially if you haven't really managed to and identify what your real relationship with money is. So that's the other thing. Think about also having some sort of, and you don't have to do it right now because of all this cost, but you can look these items up. Thinking about if you're single, have a will. If you're married, have a will. Have an estate plan in order. A lot of the businesses, we were talking about businesses, there is a benefit to being a small business. You can write a lot of this stuff off. You have a home office, if you can hire family members, you can, pay them and get them written off at the end. There's a lot of things that you can do as a small business. So if you want to use this time to be distracted into investing into yourself, those are some of the things that you can do. Make sure you have life insurance. And unfortunately, as we are experiencing what's happening now, there are a lot of people that are dying as a result of this virus. And I've even heard some stories that they don't even have the resources to bury their family members right now.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you think about the back end, right? And, I don't want to get too, end up on a crazy note, but, these are real. We are all eventually going to, pass away. It's about the how, meaning how are you going to leave your family members? Are you going to leave them with a bunch of debt that they now have to sort through and figure out, and then not be able to have the money to be able to bury you? Or are you going to do a little bit prepared, be a little bit more prepared and thinking about them on the front end so that they can really grieve you and also still have resources at the end to be able to support their ongoing life when you're no longer around. So that's really important. Having life insurance, having a will, especially if you're single, because that stuff goes to the state and it gets messy, right? You don't want to deal with that. But if you take the time to really go through and write down the things, your assets, even like Facebook accounts, like, all that stuff, just write it down so that, it doesn't make sense for us to be able to be searching through that stuff. You can't take the money with you anyway. So you might as well just, somebody going to get it. It ain't, that's the reality.
Yeah.
So I am looking at some of these questions, right?
All right.
And one question that came up was, what do we think about the Paycheck Protection Program?
Oh, the PPP.
PPP. Now, I know like somewhat about it. I was on, I got a lot of my information from the Department of Small Business Services and also the SBA as well. Stephany, do you have any insight, any thoughts, questions? Or, can you answer that question? Like, what do we think about it?
Yeah, I think it's amazing that the SBA was able to create this product and actually forgive this loan. Potentially, you could have this loan forgiven. So kudos to the SBA, because historically with other disaster loans, they wouldn't forgive it and you did have to pay it off. So I'm excited about that. The only thing I don't like is that they're still trying to figure it out. So right. I found out about it on Wednesday, and then since then it's changed and it seems like it's still going to change. So I still don't have a clear idea of what it actually is. And I'm hesitant that the SBA might put more restrictions on it in order for you to get the forgiveness part of it. And so with my clients, I have them applying just because it's first come, first serve. So I'm trying to get everybody in there as quickly as possible. But we are going to review the documents once it's finalized before we sign anything, because if it's not beneficial for the client, then I don't want them to take out this loan that they may have to pay back. But if there is the option to get it forgiven, then I think it's an amazing product.
And the point of it having forgiven, meaning that from what I been reading, is that you have to bring your employees back to the same level prior to this particular crisis. Meaning that if you had 10 staff prior to, you have to make sure that you maintain the 10 staff afterwards, after you receive the loan, so that the loan can be forgiven. That's what I understood.
For 8 weeks.
And 10 as an example. You just have to maintain your same levels of employee. I'm sorry, Stephany.
No, all for it. And I believe the time frame is 8 weeks after the funds have been received. That's what I'm understanding right now. Okay.
So the next question is, how do I determine the price of service for a particular project if you're starting a new business? Like, how do you price yourself? How do you know if you're pricing yourself?
Yeah.
If you're shortchanging yourself, how do you recommend that small businesses look into that?
We're usually shortchanging ourselves.
That's a great question. When it comes to a product, it's easier than with a service, because with a service, it's more like, how do I value my own time? And with both of them, you want to check out what are the industry norms. Usually what I would recommend my clients do is to go to the Science Industry Business Library and just sit with a librarian there, and they can do market research so you can understand what's the industry norm and what are their price points, and kind of gauge from there. Since we don't have access to that anymore, they have moved some of their resources online, so you can start there. But when it comes to a product, I first want you to figure out what are all of the costs associated with creating that product. So let's say we're creating, we have a t-shirt company, how much does it cost me per shirt? Then to print on the shirt, how much does that cost me? Am I outsourcing it and someone else is doing it for me? Or am I doing that in-house? There's something that's called a margin. So what's the margin or the industry norm of that margin for making a t-shirt? So let's say you can mark it up like 50%. So if it costs me 50 cents, I can mark it up 50%. I don't know if I'm getting too technical with that. So for products, figure out how much it's going to cost you to make that product. and then make sure you're making enough to make sure that margin that you're making. So it costs me this much. Can you see me? This much to make the product. Whatever this margin is needs to be able to cover my fixed costs. So that's rent, my employees, insurance, that needs to cover that, and also have enough where I make a profit, where I'm making money. So what you need to do is figure out all of your costs associated with this business, and then figure out how much do you need to charge in order for you to make a profit on that. When it comes to a service, you have less overhead, so you have less costs. So ultimately, you need to decide how much is my time worth. So with me, I charge $100 an hour to meet with a client one-on-one for a consultation, because I know how much I'm putting into it, and that's what I'm charging. I have no overhead, so that's straight money to me. But I know I do have some fixed costs. So I write off my Metro card. I write that off. There's a platform that I use to get market research. That's something that it'll go towards. But for the most part, the bulk of that will go straight to me. So when you're figuring that out, you need to figure out what are your costs and make sure that it covers your costs. That's probably the biggest thing where businesses fail. They want to beat their competitors, and they're like, oh, my competitor charges $10, so I'm going to charge $5. But does that cover your costs? If $5 cover your costs, fine. But usually you're undercutting yourself and you're losing money, and your business will fail.
Okay, good. So the next question I am looking at is directed to Ebony. Hey, Mama Smalls, how are you?
Oh, Jesus.
The question is, how can you help out people that are having depression, specifically depression, with all that's going on, and not make decisions off of the panic that's happening right now? So this question is about those who are experiencing depression, because that's real as well during this process.
Lord, I mean, it is. And I don't mean to sound, grim, but I mean, depression is a clinical disease. And if you suffer from it, you suffer from it. Like, that's just the truth. And probably outside of COVID, you were suffering from it, right? And so it's very important that you learn what your triggers are, right? Like, what are the things that push you past sadness? Because sadness and being depressed are different. Being depressed means that your symptoms are lasting over a long period of time, uninterrupted, right? So you're not just depressed today and you feel better tomorrow because you drank tea and you had sex. Like, that's not depression. Depression stops you from doing those things that you enjoy. So if you're depressed, you probably don't want tea and you don't want to have sex, right? And so it's thinking about how long have these symptoms, lasted? What brought them on? What happened right beforehand when I fell a little deeper than I normally would? And also knowing that, yes, depression is a clinical diagnosis. It's a disease in a lot of ways, but that it's also something that we can work through. A lot of times you need therapeutic intervention. So I want to be, very honest about that it's more helpful, and you can probably sort of move through some things a little faster if you are seeking therapeutic intervention. Right now, like I said, everyone is doing telehealth. There's a lot of slots open for people to be able to check in with a therapist. And so it's very important. A lot of people who are still working, you can use your job. You can go through your employee assistance program at first, and then they can connect you. You can go through your insurance if you still have insurance, and they connect you. But also, a part of government services, you can get free mental health therapy as well. So if you're not working and you're currently receiving unemployment and soon to be receiving Medicaid, don't worry. There are therapists, as a part of those networks. Or if you have a little, money to spend and you don't want to go through any of those options, you can look for a therapist, on your own, and, pay the copay through your insurance, or again, pay out of pocket. But therapy is very expensive out of pocket, so you want to think about that. But it is about taking care of those things. You're not just going to sleep depression away. Right? So that's very, very important, that if you think that you're depressed because you've been experiencing symptoms for for 3 weeks, right? For the whole time that we've been here, like you want to have someone step in, and you don't want to beat yourself up about it. It's not weak.
Mm-mm.
It's not, you didn't do anything wrong. There's not a glitch in you because you're experiencing depression. It is normal to actually have very sad feelings at this time. That's why it's important to monitor your symptoms the same way you do for COVID, right? Everyone's like, monitor your symptoms. That's what you want to do for your mental health as well, right? Is to monitor that. Like, how long have I been feeling this way? Was I able to get up yesterday, right? Did I get out of bed, right? And so it's just a time to monitor, because feeling sad is going to happen for us all, right? Like, I was watching the news, and that day that they said that a 6-week-old baby died, that was it. I said, oh shit, like that's it. Because what we were talking about before, like not your kids, right? Like it wasn't the kids, and it was a 6-week-old baby.
Yep.
So I was over it, right? Then I read an email yesterday, and I didn't hear of any deaths within my organization. And we're a pretty big nonprofit, for about like 3,000 people work there. And then I found out that 4 of our clients in disability services had passed. And I just started to think about some of them, a nonverbal. Were they able to say that they weren't feeling well? Did it, like, how did this happen, right? And so, yeah, I was sad, and I said it out loud. And it's normal to feel sadness during these times, to unfortunately, embrace that sadness, know what it is, know that it's going to come. Again, if it's lasting for a long period of time and you are unable to, get out of that funk, if you're unable to do the things that you once enjoyed, then it might be depression. And it's okay to then check in with a mental health professional.
Okay. So I hope that answers your question. So I see another question that asks, is it time to think about owning or refinancing a home in the coming year or 2 years? I
That's
mean,
you, Anita.
oh, I'm like, yeah. So here are my thoughts about that. Again, if you have the means to do so, to take advantage of, the opportunity, then I would say go for it, because the interest rates are really low now.
Yep.
If you don't have any outstanding major debt, student loans and, all this other debt that we can incur over our lifetime, I would say go for it, because it is an opportunity to be able to capitalize. And if you have to take out a mortgage, refinance, etc., that this is an opportunity to do so. So yeah, I would say do it if you have the ability to do so. If you don't, then the interest rates are not going to skyrocket like immediately, like next year. They still will be relatively low. So you still will have the opportunity to be able to take advantage and get yourself right. Get the credit report up to date, pay down some debt if you have the ability to do so. If not, the opportunity will still present itself for the next year. And someone mentioned that they currently refinance utilizing a credit union. So yes, credit unions do offer really wonderful rates, sometimes lower than the average financial institution. So you could definitely take advantage, again, if you're in the position to do so. If not, your time will come. So that's not something that you have to stress and worry about. Like now, we got to do it now. If it's not for you right now, then we're not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
I have another question, and other recommendations about therapy sites. BetterHelp, I guess that's .com, or Better Therapy, a therapy for Black girls, and Psychology Today are some of the items that are being posted
Yes.
as resources. And then I have another question, is that can we also talk about employers that are giving money if you're still working, and let them know to go to HR? Oh, how to go to HR to find out. I hope I'm articulating that your question correctly. Can we also talk about employers that are giving money if you're still working? I don't think I really understand that question. That's from Mama Smalls. Can you?
Okay.
So
So
she's asking about, can we talk about employers that are giving money if you're still working? I think I got it.
like hazardous pay. So there's some companies that are
Okay.
giving people hazardous pay. It's not mine, believe me, we
Mhm.
asked. But that are giving a little extra because you are being asked to still work and maintain the business.
Mm,
And so I think it's important that, if you are still getting your regular salary and now your job has given this little extra, to not think of it as like extra blowaway, to think about what you want to do with those few extra dollars. So is it that you're starting a business? Is it that you're paying off, things that you've been looking to pay off all this time? Like you can, as we were saying earlier, if you're using yourself as a personal business, right? You should think of yourself as a business, think of your family as a business. Then you can use that extra hazardous pay. If it's $2 extra an hour, right? Now, what do you want to do with that for your long term, goals? And I think that's very important. Something else that has, come up just even thinking about HR is that I know my team, and I think it is because I work with people of a certain age. They've been all over HR for learning like what our benefits are, what are the things we actually have to do as employees still in the midst of this. Because as a social worker, we are still expected to check in on families, to see some of them in person, to, especially if they were families that presented with, extreme struggles before, maybe had DV in the home, extreme mental health. Like, we're still expected to be there face to face, and they are not giving us gear like, like medical professionals. They don't even have enough for them. So there's not like, as a social worker, I have no cute, outfit and mask together to go out and, and have these conversations. And so, you know, there have been a lot of conversations with HR, and I'll say that I am thankful for the way that my company, specifically has been handling it. But HR has to send at least 2 emails a week to the entire organization saying like what new policies are. Like they ended up, people who just started, they didn't have insurance, right? And so they had to work it out with insurance companies and see like what's the soonest we can get people insurance. People can't wait 6 months. They can't wait 3 months, right? So what are we doing? So yes, like if you are still employed somewhere, you should be speaking to your HR department about what your benefits are, right? When you're self-employed, you gotta go to yourself and say, what am I willing to pay for, right? That's what you do. When you're self-employed, you go to yourself and say what you're willing to pay for. But when you work for a company, they have an obligation to you. And the difference for the team that I supervise is half of them live on a college campus,
mm,
and they provide mental health services and tutoring services, the other team, for young people. But the dorms closed. I had to ensure that my company was willing to pay for these people to relocate, or to pay for them to live somewhere else, like if needed, right? And so that's my job as a leader of a team, I believe, is also to ensure that the employees have access to the resources that your companies are offering. Because just one more thing about this, and I'm not supposed to be the expert on this part, but here I am, is that money is being thrown at COVID. So corporations, people are donating, saying this is for COVID, giving money to programs. And it's okay to ask, like, what is the plan for that? Because for a lot of us, the plan is not for employees, it's for the clients we serve. There's a part of that that's understandable, but what is your company willing to offer you during this time while they still have you working? Right? Like, yes, they're paying you to do something, but what can they do for you? So don't hesitate to ask. Don't be nervous that if you ask, that means you won't have a job anymore, because in all honesty, they still need employees. So yes, we're still hiring at my job. You know why? Because they already had contracts to hire another 300 more people, because they plan on COVID being over at some point, and they already had contracts for new programs.
right.
So don't feel nervous to speak up at work about what your needs are. Don't be an asshole either, because I don't run into a few of those. But you do have rights, and you need to be able to ask questions, and you need to be able to use the information that you're getting from CDC and that you're getting from other places, to have very real conversations with your jobs. Yeah.
So as we are coming up on our time, I mean, we actually could stay here, for the whole day talking about this, but I'm sure you don't want to look at my red glasses and my blue t-shirt and, that smile, but I definitely want to take the time to, pull out some plugs because I see a number of different businesses that have shown up within on this live, and I'm super grateful for you taking the time out to be able to come out to support. So I'm actually going to shout a few folks out. Hey, Adam. So Adam Cruz came to my event. We did a social entrepreneurship in January, Vision 2020. He actually invited me to be on his podcast. And I'm sorry I don't have his information up, but hey, Adam. Hey. Oh, it's actually Empower. So check out Empower on Instagram, and that's run by Adam Cruz. So I also see the president of the National Urban League Young Professionals. Hey, Shalima.
Hi, Shalima.
How are you? Thanks for joining us this morning. I also see I know I see a couple of friends. Hey, Kiana. My sister's on. I see an old person from high school. I ain't going to date myself, but hey, I see
Girl.
a number of family members out there.
Yeah.
Love you. Hey, Terrell. We love you. Hey, Mama Smalls. We love you. I see also a client of mine. Hey, Yvonne. Hey. She runs a consulting business called Images Me. We are working together to get some, more external and get her business brand back out there. So she runs a small business called Images Me. So shout out to her as well. I actually see another girlfriend out there. Hey, Io. She actually
Hi, Ayo.
works as a first vice president, of a very esteemed financial institution.
Thanks.
And she does, she's an underwriter and does financial projections. So, hey, and I also want to give a shout out to, where I just saw her. Hey, Miss Richards. She actually is the owner of Growth and Transitions Counseling.com.
Yes.
Her practice
Hey, boo.
does telehealth. So
She on there. Get on there. She got slots. And she has a
yeah, if
whole,
you
had a whole office space in Queens.
so yeah,
But now all of the therapists over there have, are now doing telehealth support. Thank you for so many of my therapist people, hopping on the resources that were sent, like use them, they're real. Yes, you can go on Psychology Today to find a therapist, like they said. There's just, there are lots of resources out there. If you can see people, in the chat, just go ahead and hit them up on the side. You can also message me at Ebony's Mindful Moves on Instagram or on Facebook. You can find me as well. I can share resources. I'm also doing coaching myself and running groups for friends. So that's called, Crew LU, where we're leveling up together. So bring your friends together and I can run a call for you all on a topic of your choice. So yes. Thank you.
So I'm also going to shout out a couple more businesses that just popped in. Hey, Miss Washington is a public speaking and consulting service for mental health professionals. He or she, I hope I'm saying she correctly, so please forgive me. And please forgive me for not using the proper pronoun. And I'm getting adjusted. So, call it to my heart. I'm not doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
But she does it's public speaking and consulting services for mental health professionals, also at T Speaks NYC and www.tspeaksnyc.com. So shout out to everybody who joined us. This is the first one, and I'm super excited. I am thankful for everyone who came out today to listen to all of us, and also Spark Leadership. Hey, Kiana. Hey, Kiana, that's right. Get them plugs in for the businesses. This is what we are supposed to be doing for each other. We are supposed to be connecting the dots for each other. We can't always rely on this stimulus. We can't wait for the dude or the girl coming in on a white horse, because sometimes they may pass us by. So it is our responsibility to be able to support ourselves and support each other in this space. And that's a part of what I do at 11375. I'm trying to connect the dots for us folks, because we all trying to figure it out. Some of us have a little bit more information than others, but I think the important thing is that we connect the dots and that we aren't like harboring information that could be supportive to another. So I want to definitely support everyone. If you have a small business, I may not be able to buy into all of your stuff at this moment, but I definitely will make sure that I can keep you as a resource, send over other resources, and connect the dots to build your business as well, because we all going to come up at some point. We just got to keep at it. So I am Anita at 11375. Stephany, you got some other thoughts you want to shout your business out before we close out?
If anybody has some questions, or if you need help with your business plan, creating projections, or connecting to capital, you can send me an email at financiallyfitny@gmail.com. I'm happy to speak with you. If you can't afford me, I'm happy to connect you to free resources. And if you need help with your personal credit and you can't afford a financial advisor, the city has a free resource called the Office of Financial Empowerment. Let's get that credit right. We need to buy a house. We need to invest. So let's work on that credit.
Perfect. Anita, are you going to tell them what you're doing later?
Ebony, did you shout your business out? Because I'm about to shout some more businesses out. Did you shout it?
But are you going to tell them what we're doing later? Don't we have something else coming up?
Besides being on D Nice? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. So I want someone before I tell folks what we're doing later, because today is a full day for Ebony and I. We are actually going to be participating in another conference later on this evening, pretty much focusing on the same topic of, the financial mentality, how we're able to manage our stress through this process. I'm going to have to find the information. But before I do, I am going to shout out some more small businesses, because I think this is an appropriate platform. Therapists for Black Girls in Psychotherapy. Shout out to you. We got Denisha Thompson that does coaching, leadership development groups. I actually work with Denisha on another project. So shout out to Denisha, and her website is bluecompassgroup.com. We got Lakimja. Hey, how are you? I know that name. We got Black Phoenix Management Group, and it's all about connecting people to resources. And we got Denisha.com. So I am Anita at 11375. We got these little, cute little.
Thank you.
The blue shirt. So I'm selling, I have an online shop that, all the proceeds a portion of it gets donated to small businesses, and also to help support my daughter in her allowance. So, hey, you're thinking about supporting, you could support that way and look at some of the services that we offer. But again, I definitely appreciate the time that you took. I look forward to hosting these in person, when the time being comes. But right now, we're going to do this virtually. I'm going to figure out a schedule, and perhaps can invite some of the businesses that have jumped on to be able to just have like a conversation and a platform to be able to offer resources. But, for right now, we're signing off. I got my tea. Did you? Thank you for joining Money Talk and Brunch. Thank you so much. We love you. And be safe. Be safe. Be safe. We love you. And thank you so much for supporting.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
We need a picture.